Let's bring in Oxana Shevel from Medford, Massachusetts. She's an associate professor in the Department of Political Science at Tufts University. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today, Professor. Now, do you think Ukraine will be successful in winning the Battle of Donbass as President Zelensky has described it, looking back at how they were able to fight off Russian aggression in and around the capital, Kyiv?
Yes, I think for Ukrainians, it's more than just the battle for Donbass. It is really the battle for survival, for the right to exist as a nation, as people. So there is great determination to win this battle. Also, Ukrainians had quite a lot of time to prepare because the conflict in the Donbass has been going on since 2014. Of course, when you are protecting the defensive positions, it is somewhat, militarily easier than, the offensive as far as casualties and so forth. Ukraine does need the heavy weapons the president has been asking. And of course, for Ukraine, it's very important to keep control of the territory because we have seen what Russia have been doing, what Russian army has been doing on the territories that they occupy, the genocidal killing of civilians. This is something also the government is very set to avoid. So as far as the Ukrainian position goes, the stronger they are militarily, the higher the chance are that they would not only protect territory, but also protect civilian life.
So you think that Ukraine's allies need to provide it with more high-tech weapons?
Yes, I think that's important because otherwise, again, if, say, this war ground to some kind of, a halt, as in like positionary war, what we saw in Donbass, and Russians continue to control the territory they've taken since February, the kinds of things that are happening on these territories are really horrifying. So not only it is politically obviously bad for Ukraine to not be able to control the territory that is part of its state, but also if we think for humanitarian situation, so as ironic as it might seem, actually arming Ukraine also helps protect civilian life.
Why do you think that the West has been so reluctant in providing its full military capacity to Ukraine?
Well, I think it depends what sort of specific things we're talking about, right? If we talk about, say, like no-fly zone, the position of the West has been perhaps somewhat understanding that that would mean direct engagement with Russia, right? And then, of course, there is fear of nuclear confrontation. But I don't see, for example, the supply of, say, additional planes, right, or heavier weapons that the president was asking would lead to this confrontation. I think this is really Putin is trying to scare the politicians, and some politicians in the West for a variety of reasons, probably would like to be cautious. And I think what they really need to realize, and this is something that Ukrainians have been emphasizing, that Putin's designs for Ukraine are nothing short as the elimination of Ukrainians as people who are separate from Russia and want to exist as a separate state. So really the stakes are as high. And I hope, the countries that have been maybe not quite committed to providing the weapons that Ukrainians are seeking would actually come and provide them.
I think it's been clear that Putin's main aim here at the moment is to redefine borders at this stage. Do you think that the Battle of Donbass how do you think, rather, the Battle of Donbass will conclude, and what position will Russia be in if they fail to capture key cities in the east?
Well, I think the battle for Donbass itself is Putin is trying to sort of present at least some victory to the Russian public because, of course, the original plan, and they haven't formally abandoned this plan, was the so-called demilitarization, denazification of Ukraine, which involved toppling Ukrainian government and installing some sort of pro-Russian puppet government, essentially stripping Ukraine of sovereignty. That plan failed, so now there is this sort of plan B, and Putin also wants to show some results by May 9th, the victory day that Russia celebrates victory of the Soviet Union in the Second World War. So there is, in a way, some kind of deadline, right? But I think if they were, for example, to be successful in capturing Donbass, I don't think it would stop there at all. If anything, there might be a period of break when, Russia would try to get more weapons, more forces, and continue to pursue its so-called denazification of Ukraine. Now, if they fail, I think that would be quite consequential because it looks like there may not be additional resources. The sanctions are hurting the economy. People in Russia, the soldiers, have sustained very heavy casualties. So I think if Putin fails in this battle for Donbass, I think it would hasten the end of the war and defeat of Russia, at least in the plans that they have set for Ukraine.
All right, Oxana Shevel, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World and sharing that insight with us.